As I sit here, I am very happily aware of living in a universe of blessings. Those freely given to us by our founding teacher Sote-san, and the lineage of teachers and teachings he sparked into existence, and the blessings of our revered Dharma ancestors, the carriers of those teachings to us. Reverend Wonggong and Reverend Shan and all our wonderful living Dharma ministers and teachers. Venerable Yuksanim, the head Dharma master of Won Buddhism USA, whose heartfelt care for practitioners is so strong and bright. Our Won Buddhism family Sangha here in North Carolina and around the globe. And those of my beloved spouse, family, my daughter Laura, and friends here, near and far. Take a moment and look around you. Now, really look. We are all part of an infinite realm of mutual blessings. This morning, in the spirit of gifted blessings, I would like to share a few with you that have been really formative for me on my Dharma path. And I have been asked to share the story of that path with you. I can easily say that my journey to becoming a Wonmu lay minister is a natural extension of my gratitude for Won Buddhism. But I've been wondering, what is the beginning of my story? Is it the day I first met Won Buddhism, Reverend Wonggong and Reverend Ginger here in the Chapel Hill Temple? Should I begin with the path that led Reverend Wonggong to establish a temple near me, or the lineage of her teachers who carefully passed Dharma from one generation to the next? Does the story start with my childhood, growing up in a rich religious tradition that I eventually felt the need to leave as an adult? Or perhaps my story can be first traced to the years following my religious exit, which found me sitting in silent contemplative prayer in the forest, fully expecting that this forest-sitting practice was the spiritual path I would be on for the rest of my life. So many beginnings. Perhaps they are best summed up in part of the 21-day prayer I said in preparation for becoming ordained as a Wonmu. Dharmakaya Buddha Fourfold Grace. My whole life has prepared me to step into the role of a Wonmu. I am deeply grateful to the spiritual teachers and friends who helped shape me in my earlier life, and to my beloved spouse Dan and his ever-present love, care, and support. Without him and them, the foundation I am now standing on would be sparser and less steady. Because of the loving, dedicated work and care of Reverend Wonggong, a doorway to Won Buddhism opened to me in 2012. Once I stepped through it, she and the Won Buddhism family Sangha have freely offered their loving, sustained guidance and support in ways both visible and not visible to me. I am profoundly grateful to them all. My mind, heart, and life have been transformed through mind practice and gratitude awakening. So, with that as a background, let's begin my story on the morning I first stepped through those doors into this Dharma hall where we are sitting. At that time, I was not at all interested in Buddhism or meditation. Earlier on, though, I had checked out the temple's website, but only because several people had suggested that my youngest daughter, Laura, might be interested in attending the teen camp that they held each summer. As I scrolled through the temple's web pages, I was instantly taken by a photo of the big gold circle hanging on a wall. The image was compelling. I felt pulled toward the circle as if it were a strong magnet. The gold circle startled me. It was so unexpected. I've lived in Asia, and I'd never seen anything like it in my entire time I was there and visited Buddhist temples. Over the next several months, I occasionally would return to the temple website. The circle was always there. And I continued to experience it in the same powerful way. This made me wonder, who are these people? What does that circle mean to them? After a while, my need to know grew so strong that I felt impelled to show up. Once I entered the Dharma hall, it did not take me long to find a nice footnoted explanation about the circle in the chanting booklet. Il Song, one circle image, symbolizes the universal truth and one's true nature. Okay. Although my curiosity was somewhat satisfied by this definition, and even though I still did not care about either Buddhism or meditation, I kept returning to the temple's weekend Dharma gatherings. Why? Because on that first morning, just like this morning, we chanted Yongju prayer chant, and I was deeply moved by its beauty and universal nature. Chongji Yonggi Ashin Jong Mansayo E Ashin Tong Chongji Yo Adong Yuche Ayo Chongji Don Shin Jong. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth settles in my being. My mind and heart penetrate all things as I pray. Heaven, earth, and I become one. I am one with the way of heaven and earth. I still love Yongju. And it does not take long to chant, even if you repeat it 7 times, as we often do. For me, this meant that in those early weeks and months, I was sitting here in a Dharma service that lasted 1.5 hours just so I could do this chant for a few minutes. And because it would have been really rude to get up and walk out that door once we finished chanting, I stayed in the Dharma hall and participated, simply to be polite. Yet, as time went by, I started noticing that my energy ever so slightly shifted, coalesced, and settled after meditation. This really surprised me, and it piqued my curiosity. And because I kept politely staying in the Dharma hall after we chanted Yongju, I also started becoming acquainted with Master Sotaesan's teachings and grew to appreciate their clarity and wisdom. How the way of practice and the way of human life beautifully intermingle with timeless and placeless meditation and unfold into selfless service for all beings. It's this intermingling of relationships among our teachings that continues to hold a special place in my heart. One of these teachings is the cause and effect relationship between gratitude practice and the threefold study, and how they interfold with one another to embrace human life. In Won Buddhism, we prioritize gratitude practice, not as a way of glumming on to greeting card platitudes, but as a way of recognizing and honoring our relationship with Il Won, the truth of the universe, and then wisely and compassionately responding to all the myriads of blessings and beings that inhabit it. But expressing gratitude without skill is a toss-up in terms of outcome, and that's where the teaching of the threefold study comes in. Like a constantly circulating Celtic knot, the development of equanimity, inquiry and wisdom, and mindful choice and action weave in and out, each supporting and informing the other. Is this beginning to sound a little too theoretical? If so, I have a simple story I think you'll enjoy that beautifully illustrates how the threefold study works in real life. As many of you know, from time to time, guests visit us here at our North Carolina temples. This past spring, we were delighted to have esteemed guests, Venerable Myung Tawanim and Reverend Yeri from the Won Dharma Center, join us for a few days. While they were here, I was invited to ask Myung Tawanim a question. I had recently passed the qualifying exam for becoming a Wonmu, and I had been thinking about the possible ways this new role might develop for Won Buddhism USA and for me. So I asked Venerable Myung Tawanim, who was a wonderful and exceptionally wise senior teacher, what are your hopes for those serving as Wonmu in the US? She paused, and then she said, "Don't forget to turn out the lights." Her answer made me smile, and it was so helpful. Those of you who spend time in the Won Buddhist universe know that being mindful about using resources wisely is paramount. Whenever you're the last one to leave the room, it's important to remember to turn out the lights. With her answer, Myung Tawanim was reminding me that no matter the circumstance, it is essential to be alert to what needs to be done and then do that. This is exactly what practicing the threefold study is all about. To be alert, we need a calm, clear, spacious mind and heart, one that emerges as we develop equanimity from mind practice and meditation. To assess what needs to be done and plan how to do it effectively requires knowledge and wisdom. When both are present, meaningful, mindful action is possible. Myung Tawanim's answer is also a beautiful example of something that simply delights me about Won Buddhist teachings. You can find living examples of them everywhere. Sometimes from answers to questions, sometimes in nature and the physical world, and sometimes in people. We have a koan for this that I especially love. I have a volume of scripture that is written without paper or ink. It doesn't contain a single word, yet always radiates light. Before I close, I want to add that even though I have experienced a lot of radiant light from Won Buddhist teachers, teachings, and Sangha members, My path within it has not always been a smooth or comfortable one. I've had internal wrestling matches with a number of questions and uncertainties over the years, not to mention many struggles with habits of my mind and body that have constricted my life, heart, and practice. Early on, I very much wished I could simply be a nice, furry temple cat, sitting on the Dharma Hall steps, bringing a friendly, peaceful energy to people passing by, listening to bells and chanting, soaking in the energy, and not worrying. But I never turned into a temple cat, so I persevered instead and found anchors and shelter in the truth of Ilwan Song and in Yongju, and in the essential teachings of our tradition that happily live in the turtle chart. They have all been steadfast, reliable gifts and blessings to me. Master Sotaesan said, "The mind of mutual life giving is the source for inviting blessings." That certainly has been my lived experience, and I am most grateful to everyone who has so kindly and generously shared their time, wisdom, and care with me. Thank you for being part of my Dharma journey. May mutual life-giving and gratitude unfold into many blessings for you all. 감사합니다. Thank you.
감사합니다.